Welcome back to Hot Rod Guy Garage, and today I'm going to show you how to reseal a Thompson Ford power steering pump. So follow me along through the intro and I'll be back. Alright guys, so you made it through the intro. If you're looking to reseal your Ford Thompson style power steering pump, and this is what a Thompson style or TRW design power steering pump looks like. Not to be confused with Saginaw pump. This is kind of a Ford deal here. These pumps started in 1965 and they went all the way up until, for a long time. Up until, the late 70s. It's very hard to get a good replacement pump for these nowadays. So you may be in this position here where you got a good pump, but it leaks out the front or leaks out the reservoir, or there's something wrong internally with it. So I'm going to assume when you get to this point, you know how to get to this point, because you wouldn't be thinking about reselling this pump. But if you don't, you're going to have a bracket somewhat similar to this on your engine. This is a small block Ford bracket. It's going to bolt to the water pump there. It's going to have a bolt that goes through to the cylinder head there, and it's going to have a pivot bolt at the bottom. You're going to take this bracket off. This bracket is going to be attached to the pump via the stud back here in the back. You're going to have a little flat nut back there, and then you're going to have 3 bolts up here in the respective spots. You're going to have to press the power steering pulley off. As you can see, this stuff's pretty ugly. But you're going to use something like this OEM tool right here. You're going to use these little sleeves and right here and this right here. You simply tighten this up and hold this and it'll pull your pulley off. But this is going to be more about resealing it. It's going to be probably a shorter video. I'm going to clean this stuff up a little more in the background. But let's get this pump busted apart. Alright, so what you're going to need. You're going to need a 15/16 socket. There is a singular nut right here on the back of this housing. You can take it loose by hand if you wish. But they're usually pretty tight. So you take that nut off. You're going to take your identification tag off right here. And you think that you would be able to get this out. But we're going to need a little friend to get these two separated. And usually you can use a dead blow hammer. And you don't want to hit on this with a regular hammer back here because you have a taper. So I like to use a dead blow. That way we don't damage the stem in the back. So you want to check up here and see if your pump's coming loose. In reality, this thing should just slide right apart. Sometimes they fight, as in the case with this one. So we did, however, get it to move. So, like I said, the hardest part's going to be getting this thing apart. And getting this O-ring in here to let go. It's starting to move just a little bit. And sometimes you turn the camera off for just a second and they pop right apart. But what happens, I'll show you here. These things aren't painted real well from the factory. You get a little rust lip in here. This should just physically slide off. So you want to make sure you got some towels down, because what's going to come out of here is not going to be nice. The fluid that comes out of these, they hold all the funky stuff and dirt inside. Now, if you're just going to do a standard reseal on this, there's a gasket right here that we just wiped off, a little paper gasket right here. at the back of the housing. There's an O-ring right here, and then there's a seal up here. But we're gonna go a little bit further on resealing this one, and I'm actually gonna change the internal pump gasket and clean the inside of this out. So let me put the reservoir over here in my parts cleaner, get it cleaned up, and I'll be back. So I got the reservoir and some rust remover bath and degreased. You're gonna have 4 1/2-inch bolts right here. And that'll take this cover off. This cover will expose the inner workings of the pump, the relief valve, and everything. So we're going to replace this gasket too, right here. And your pump is inside this, right here. And these are your pump inner workings right here, the vanes for the pump. All this will slide apart like this. And then you should be able to pull the shaft out. This old pump is pretty crusty. We may have to get a little helper to help knock that on out. That seal is hard as a rock. So I'm just going to use a flat-ended punch, drop it in right here, give it a tap, and that'll get us out. So at this point, you got a bunch of pieces laying on your table. You're going to clean all this stuff up. So mere seconds for you, a few minutes for me. And just like magic, everything has been cleaned with brake cleaner. So I went ahead and slid this other piece off, which is this. This slides it on these dowels. The little clover leaf piece goes towards the bottom. And ideally, these little dowel pins will pull out. This one right here did not want to let go, so I just left it in because there's really no reason I need to even remove it. But we need to get the front seal out, and what I want to use is just your standard seal puller. And that seal will pull out just like that. So you can get this old rock hard seal. We'll set it, our gasket, and that seal over to the side. I'm going to wipe this out so I can see our bushing in here. And that's another thing to note, guys. That's another wear item on these pumps if they're high miles. This come off a car that was parked in the 70s, and it's a 70 model, so I was kind of banking on this bushing being good, and surprisingly it is. So I'm just going to give this another brake cleaner bath. I'm going to give it a little touch up here with a wire brush on the metal portion of it, just to clean the rust off of it. Then I'll be back. Alright, so I got this cleaned up. I sprayed a little cast iron paint on it. This is the reseal kit we're going to use. I got this from Rock Auto. It was very, very cheap. So it's about the only thing that's available anymore as far as a rebuild kit goes, or a refresh kit, so to say. So the first seal we're going to put in is going to be our front seal up here. That's going to be this seal right here. And as you notice, I got some blue paint on me. We'll get into that a little later, but this seal, I'm going to take a little Permatex High Tack and just put around the diameter of the seal itself, right here. Technically, this thing should not leak, but an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. So I'm just going to take and put our seal in right there. I'm just going to take a small hammer and lightly tap this seal down in here. Until it is flush. And then I will just take a little bit of towel here and just a little bit of brake cleaner, clean the seal surface off. And once you get that wiped off, our seal's installed. I'm going to flip our assembly upside down. I'm going to take some light grease right here, and I'm just going to put it in our bushing. When I say light, you don't want nothing thick in here, because it will keep it from oiling around this bushing. So this is just a very, very, very light stuff that'll wash away with power steering fluid. I'm going to go ahead and grab the rest of our pieces out here and put them on the table. And generally, guys, these will give you a breakdown of the pump in here and show you where the different seals go if you have any questions. So our next piece to go on is going to be our gasket here. And once again, I'm not going to put any kind of sealer or glue on this. I'm just going to put a little of this very light soluble grease on here, just to hold our gasket down. It does not require any kind of sealer or anything. And we're just going to line our 4 holes up there for our bolts. Your outside seal, this is the one that seals your reservoir to the main body of the pump. I'm just going to take and put a little bit of this grease on here. That goes around your outside right here. That'll just help everything kind of go back together real smoothly. So, I need to put your piece back in there. Our pump assembly, I just stacked it back how it goes. This, you can kind of see witness marks of where this went before. If you have any major scoring, I know this kind of looks a little rough, but it is good and smooth. You may need to rebuild this pump completely. In this case, everything looks like it's in pretty decent shape. I don't really see any problems with it. And this stuff's just going to stack in here like this. Turned around and flipped upside down and all that other stuff. So after you get your bushing all lined up, you're going to put your bottom plate on here. Your shaft's going to drop down in. This is a positive stopper of that shaft. You're going to look for your witness marks on your old pump. If this thing is wore out, guys, you may need to replace the pump itself. That's going to drop in there like that, and your splines drive this pump. Make sure you don't have any major scarring. This actually has absolutely none in here. And then all this stuff just kind of drops back together. If you get confused of which way stuff goes, make sure that you check your old witness marks on it. It's going to let you know where this stuff goes. Alright, and at this point, I'm just gonna go ahead and just put just a touch of, ain't gonna put a lot in here, guys, just a drip or two. Just make sure this pump never gets dry. That is the #1 killer of a Thompson pump, is running it without fluid in it or running it low. So our next piece I didn't show you, but it nestles up in here, okay? And this piece is very important because this is your pressure relief valve in here. You want to make sure that this thing isn't stuck. You want to make sure that it moves. You can see our old power steering fluid coming out of it. I'm not going to disassemble this because this pump's in good shape. It was old and I knew it probably needed seals, so that's what I was doing. Up here, you have another O-ring right here, and it sits right here. So I'll do the same thing I done with the lower O-ring. I'm just going to get a little bit of this light grease. I'm going to coat this O-ring a little bit right here. Since I have a mass of it, just going to wipe it on there. Got a little more than I wanted. So that O-ring just sits around this edge right here and seals this top off. And then right here, you got this other. You want to make sure this is positioned properly. If you don't, you won't have no power steering action. Let's see if I can show you guys. Got a notch here. Got this right here with an arrow pointed up. That's how it all lines up. So, on top of this, you're going to have these two super stiff springs. You want to make sure this is good and clean. This also has a port in it. Once again, something important to note, because that is what is going to let fluid into your pump. And a lot of you may be wondering, well, how do I know which way this goes on? Because remember, it's just got this slot in it, but it has a hole down here, and this hole's important too. That lets the lube drain off the shaft bushing up there, and it comes out right here in this little projection. So it's going to go on there, guys. This hole lining up with this dimple in there. So you're just going to get it pushed down on there on that O-ring. You're going to have these 4 bolts that we took out. We're just going to go back in here like so. Just going to use our little impact and ease these down. Okay, right there. And I'm going to clamp this in my vise and tighten these the rest way up. And I'm not going to get wild with these. The torque spec for these is kind of long gone, so I went to double check and I couldn't remember. So I'm just going to go in here and tighten them up until they're good and tight. That's the torque spec, good and tight, but not too tight. And after that, guys, there's several different kinds of these. Some of them use a copper washer here. Some of them use an O-ring here. Some of them use a large gasket there. Ours takes this smaller paper gasket. And it goes right here. And that's what seals the inside of that reservoir off from leaking fluid. If your pump is weeping around this fitting, it's this gasket right here. And to prevent any kind of future leaks in this area. And we'll take a little bit of our high tack. I'm just going to put it around right here, while trying to keep the mass off the input of our shaft. In theory, it shouldn't need any sealer, but you're dealing with old stuff, guys. You never know how things are going to seal. Just like those O-rings, I just put a little grease on them. I just want a little extra help back here. So I got a reservoir painted right here. Anybody curious, I just found something close to the factory color. I'm not worried about concourse quality here. That notch on that pump is facing the opposite way to you guys. So this is the bottom pump, top pump's that way. You can see our feed hole over here with our string high tack. Remember, we greased this. I cleaned the inside of our pump here, housing. And then this literally just pushes down on there. Until it stops. So now you just address it like you took it apart. And like magic, you completed half the battle. This is not the correct Ford color. The correct color had a little more green in it, but if anybody was wondering, like I said, I showed you the duplicate color spray paint. The part number for this one is HL3445PS. And it's a Nissan shade of color. The factory color for this would have had just a touch of green tint to it. Like I said, I'm not worried about concourse. I just wanted it somewhat close and a little contrasting so it looked factory. You're going to spend more time cleaning anything up, guys, than you are doing this. So I've got everything. Like I said, I cleaned everything up in the background. So we got our pump bracket right here. It only goes on pretty much one way also. There's only one way that all the holes line up. And if you mind what top is on your pump, you're not going to get all that screwed up. So. If you're wondering how the pump comes off this, just consult back to this and segment, and you'll be able to take the pump apart. Just reverse what I'm doing. So under the pulley, you got 3 bolts here. Right here. You're gonna tighten those 3 up. Once you get those 3 bolts tightened up, we're back to this little bracket right here. I jumped a little ahead of myself when I put that on there. I forgot this bracket. This nut and this bracket, there'll be a hole cut out. And it goes in there like that. I'm just going to tighten this up. It don't have to be, like I said, it don't have to be mega tight. You just want it tight, good and snug. And just like that, your pump bracket's back on. Now, Ford like to make multiple pieces of brackets. So from this point, you're going to have your piece that drops through. Piece that bolts on the front up here. I'm just going to run that bolt down because we have another bolt here that passes through the cylinder head. And sometimes, guys, you got to take stuff back apart because you didn't put it back together right. I forgot to show you guys, there is a notch up here and there is a notch in the edge of this reservoir that is to line your dipstick hole up. This is technically pump north, okay? This notch right here is north on this pump, but not every vehicle's mounted in that position. So you may have to back up, pull it back apart, rotate your pump housing, and you should be able to do that with no problems. That's why I didn't put any sealer on the bottom side of this back gasket. So the last thing we need to do, if you reverse your assembly right there, I'm going to use our same power steering puller tool, but I'm going to use the installer portion of it. And this has a bearing in it. It threads down the end of the shaft. Your pulley is just going to go back on like that. You're going to take and you're going to thread this thing in there until it stops. And we're going to take a wrench and a wrench and a wrench, because I grabbed the wrong one and I still grabbed the wrong one. And a wrench. We finally got the winner. And we're just going to press our pulley back on until it stops. This should be a pretty easy going process. You should never have to fight this. We're just holding the top nut, oh, and turning the nut at the bottom. And you're going to press that pulley on until it's flush with the end of the shaft. And that is very important, guys. If you do not press this thing on flush, you will have issues. And one thing I like to do, I'll just take some grease, especially after you clean these threads up, because most times they're rusty. I'll take a little bit of that grease and just put it in the end of that power steering pump. Will it hold dirt? Yes. But will it, if this does not work right, will it make it easier next time that you won't have to run tap down in the pump? Absolutely. So we have a 100% resealed and reassembled Ford Thompson power steering pump. It turns freely and smoothly. So, show quality, not so much. Good enough for girls I hang around with? Absolutely. So, I'm going to be using that pump on that 308 that I'm building for my 70 Torino. So, if you're new to the channel, guys, check out that series. I'm doing a budget engine build series. So, all these accessories, including that pump, come off this engine right here that come out of a 74 Torino that's outside. So, hopefully if you find this useful. Maybe you're scared to resell a power steering pump. It's pretty straightforward, guys. It's really hard to screw up. If you just got the end seal leaking, you could surely pull the pulley off, extract that end seal, knock a new one in there. It'd be good. But most of the time, if the end seal's leaking, it's leaking around the pump housing or out the back too, especially on these Thompson pumps. So just go ahead and order the seal kit and replace them all. Like I said, this thing was dirt cheap at Rock Auto. I'll give you all the part number one more time. Right there. It had everything we needed to reseal several different versions of this Thompson pump. So, if you haven't yet, guys, make sure you like this video, share it with your friends. If you're not a subscriber, hit that subscribe button because it does help the channel to grow. Lets me bring you more stuff like this. If you are a subscriber, I greatly appreciate you guys, and I look forward to everybody's comments down below. So until the next one, guys, thank you for watching. I'll see you at the next one.